Destination Eat Drink.
How is the food in Antarctica? Do they have a Pizza Hut down there?
There's no restaurants in Antarctica, so we ate what was on the ship. There was a huge group of tourists from China. The chef had prepared a lot of Chinese dishes. So we ate really good Chinese food in Antarctica. So,
who'd have thought, right?
Great?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was great. I was like, gotta go to Antarctica. It was really good, though. It was really good.
Gotta go to Antarctica to get good Chinese.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies, because the best part of any trip is what you eat. I'm Brent Peterson, and this week we're all over the world, from the western edge of France to sunny southern Spain to the icy Antarctic. My guest for this worldwide adventure is Emmy Award winner Christine van Blokland, host and producer of the TV show Curious Traveler at CuriousTravelerTV.com. The 8th season of Curious Traveler is out now, and Christine tells me about the places she visited, the cool things she did, and of course, the great food she tried along the way. There's tapas in Malaga, Spain, a unique cookie in Brittany, and Chinese food in the Antarctic. Plus, Christine and I gush over Galettes, talk about the importance of public art, visit a Picasso museum, and I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Christine van Blokland, a.k.a. Curious Traveler. Welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. It's great to get to catch up with you and great to talk to you about the brand new season of Curious Traveler on PBS.
Thank you so much for having me back. I think we missed a season there. That just meant that I was off traveling somewhere. Always thrilled to talk to you. You're one of the nice ones, so I'm always happy to talk to you. Always.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, it's great to talk to you too. And you're always so busy, so I'm really appreciative that you made the time for us today to talk about food and travel and your new season of Curious Traveler, where you went to a lot of cool places. You were kind enough to share the episodes with me. I watched all of them, and I enjoyed them very much. You always do such a great job. But you went to several places in France, so I wanted to start there. Can we talk about France a little bit? Specifically, let's start in Nantes,
yep,
where you saw some amazing public art. And Nantes is totally on my list, and I just have not made it there yet. So, wave the flag a little bit for Nantes.
Absolutely. So I always say in my next life, I want to come back as some sort of public arts coordinator, because the whoever did this in Nantes, they are geniuses. Because if you're a first-time visitor, depending on if it's the beginning of the trip or the end of the trip, usually if it's the end of the trip, you're like, I don't want to do any thinking. I just want to wander and go see what, strikes my fancy. So what they've done is they've made it so easy on visitors. They have created this thing called the Green Line, which is literally, they've painted a green line on the sidewalks, on the streets, all throughout the city. You can either use the app, you can use a little booklet, or you can just follow the Green Line. And it takes you to the most wonderful public arts display. It takes you also past the important museums and historic sites and that sort of stuff. But then they have public works of art with the most modern twist. And there are, I think it is, I'm going to get the number wrong. It's in the episode 130, something like that. Let's say around there. So more than 100 works of art. So all your listeners, I'm quite sure, and yourself included, you've seen public art displays. This is has a twist in a whole new way, and I'll just tell you 3 of the things. So one of them is, so you think of, it's called the Royal Fountain. So you think in most historic European cities, you have a huge fountain in the center of whatever square. So this one has the allegories of the industries of the city or something. Fine. That was built, in the 18th century. Fine. So, and I can't believe they did this, but I'm going to assume and just trust that the people in charge knew what they were doing. They have very carefully removed these statues, these centuries-old statues from the fountains and carefully put them in crates and all this other sort of stuff. And by the way, this fountain is 3 stories high, so it's a monstrosity. Then they have replaced them with these modern sculptures of everyday people. So you've got this dude in a t-shirt holding, texting on his phone, and then you've got this other person with a fishing rod over his shoulder, and then somebody else who's like, spraying for bugs. And so the whole idea is it's like this modern art thing saying this is modern day Nantes. And then at the top, what is usually what's considered sort of the queen figure, the divine queen figure of the city, is now a modern woman, and the original divine figure had as her crown on her head was the castle of the city, and the modern figure now has this skyscraper as her crown. So it's all these wonderful details, and when you look at it, you're just sort of like, okay, how did they move all this stuff around? So that's one. The second one is just plain fun. It's called Marcher sur la Lune. There's my French accent. So to walk on the moon. And I mean, I'm not a child by any stretch of the imagination. You get to walk on it, and there's these teeny tiny little mini trampolines, and you just bounce on them, which are supposed to be like the craters of the moon, and that's a work of art.
Fun.
And then the last one, and I don't know if you caught this watching the episode, I'll just say this. No one asked my opinion. It is not to my taste, but it just sort of tells you what the mindset is of this city. So in their main square, which has their opera house on one side, they have this gigantic, and I don't know how else to explain it, a gigantic reclining pregnant woman with no clothes on.
Okay.
And it's basically, it's not, it's done in like this metal. It's like a rusty kind of metal, and it's like the contour lines of it. I'll just say that. And it was sort of one of these things where it's so huge, you walk by and you're not sure what it is yet. And then you kind of see these little families and everybody playing around it, and you look and you're like, is that what I think it is? So anyhow, because it's not my sort of thing, and I didn't think it was G-rated enough for PBS, I didn't write a long script about it. I included some shots of it. So maybe for your listeners, keep an eye out for that, and let us know what you think about it. I thought it was a bit much, but then again, the French are known for that sort of thing. So,
well, what I like about this idea is that art can sometimes be not very approachable. Like, what am I looking at, or how do I understand the context of this? They have put this right front and center into the modern day. So
absolutely,
anyone can understand this and can have fun with, jumping around on the moon. Who doesn't want to do that a little bit? It's a lot of fun. And with that same idea, I don't know if this counts as public art, but that giant mechanical steampunk elephant that you rode on, I've seen this before, and it looks so cool. That's one of the things that really makes me want to visit Nantes. Can you describe what that experience is like? First of all, what's this elephant doing in the middle of Nantes?
It was incredible. So most people know A Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days. So Jules Verne was actually born in Nantes, and his childhood home has now turned into a museum. And so right across from there, there's this big area. It was sort of disused for a long time. So Nantes has this big history of being a port. And so there was this sort of like boat dock area. It wasn't being used. So they turned it into kind of I don't know what you call it, like an amusement park, carnival sort of thing. And so one of the creations that Jules Verne dreamt up, the idea that the characters of the book were riding along on the back of an elephant. So the creators of this sort of amusement park thing took those sketches, took that idea, and created this huge steampunk elephant, and obviously combined the whole steampunk thing. And, again, I'm not a child at all. It was so cool. So the whole thing is done with these like hydraulics, and it has these crazy, like creaky kind of steampunk noises. And you're riding on the back of it in this whole big area that's going, boom, boom, boom. Boom. It was so cool. And then they have this sort of gallery thing next to it where they combine not just Jules Verne's ideas, they have like this big spider and stuff, but also some of the sketches from Leonardo da Vinci. He was known for creating a tank before anybody created a tank, a flying machine, there's this flying heron. It was just really cool. So you feel like you're inside the mind of these geniuses. It was really, really cool.
It sounds so much fun. And every time I see one of these videos pop up, I think, man, why have we not gone to Nantes yet? Because it just looks so much fun.
Yeah, they have a great sense of humor there, and they love art. I'll tell you that.
We always like to talk about food on this podcast, and Nantes is famous for a cookie. Tell me about the cookie that you can get at Nantes.
Okay, so as Americans here, we call them cookies. In the UK, and I guess in France too, which I didn't know, they call them biscuits. So they call it a biscuit. And for me, I'm not really a tea drinker, but I know for tea, you're supposed to have these little tiny biscuits, and I'm like, they're usually just like those little kind of throwaway cookies you get on the airplane, and you're like, who cares? So I was like, I don't care. So as soon as we got there, the team that was hosting us like gave us these, petit beurre or Lu cookies, and I was like, oh, look at these little tiny things, I don't care. So then we get to their main castle, which is the Chateau of the Dukes of Brittany, and inside is turned into a museum, which is typical of a lot of different castles across Europe. They had this whole display on the Lu cookie. So I'll cut to the chase. So this little cookie is about the size of the palm of your hand. So it's small. And it's got these little kind of little dots across the middle, and then little lines around the outside. You're like, well, whatever. So first of all, it's called a Lu cookie, Lu, because of the last names of the creators. So it's Lefebvre Utile, right? So why they did this is kind of a mystery, but it's hilarious. So you look at this, and if you start to look really closely, you will see that there are 52 lines around the outside. And so that symbolizes the 52 weeks of the year. Each of the corners has a little circle. That's the 4 seasons of the year. So they decided to make this little tiny cookie a calendar. So you're holding a calendar in your hand, and the only explanation I got from this exhibit and looking into it was a marketing thing. So they said, well, we want all of our customers to know that this cookie is good to eat each and every day of the year.
Okay.
Is that incredible? Is that great? In this tiny little cookie.
That's a great story. How was the cookie? Did you like it?
It was actually delicious. So now I felt guilty that I was like, oh, it's just going to be like those airplane cookies.
Biscoff.
Correct. And I shouldn't. And you know what? When you're on an airplane and you're craving sugar and you're starving, the Biscoff cookies are pretty good too.
If you're enjoying Destination Eat Drink, take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast app. It just takes a moment, and it helps other foodie travelers like you find the show. And if you want to hear more of my conversation with Christine, become a member of my Substack. Members get access to the full conversation, where Christine talks about the famous souks of Marrakesh, where you have to dodge motorcycles while shopping, amazing tiles and ceramics, and a peaceful Moroccan getaway. Become a member of my Substack to hear that at destinationeatdrink.substack.com. Now more with curious traveler Christine van Blokland. Let's continue in France, because you spent some time in Brittany, in Rennes, and also Mont Saint-Michel. Do you want to talk about Mont Saint-Michel? Because that's where that church, everyone goes there to go see that incredible church. Did you walk out there? Because when I see this, it's like the tide comes in, you can't walk out there. The tide goes out, then you can walk out there. That's pretty much the only way you can do it, right? I mean, there's no boats or anything that go out there at high tide, do they? How do you get out to that Mont Saint-Michel?
Yeah, so that's the big draw there, and that's the mystery and the magic of it. So, much like yourself, so when I was researching for this, you see the incredible videos. You're like, oh, that's amazing, that's amazing. What I learned right off the bat is that really extreme tide where it's an island surrounded by water, and then the tide goes out so far that you can walk across the dry bay to get there. And then the joke is, oh, but you better walk quickly, because otherwise that water is going to come in again real quickly. Those extreme, I think it's called a super tide. That only happens about 10 times a year. Oh, okay. I thought it was me too. At first,
not twice a day.
Is that a day? Yeah, I thought so too. And so that's why when I was trying, now I'm telling you too much how the sausage is made. When I was trying to coordinate and do all this, I kept coordinating with people trying to figure it out. And anyway, finally found out. Most days, it's either all the way out or all the way in. So when we visited, it was all the way out. But let me tell you, I don't know if you've seen a drained lake or a bay before. It's crazy looking. I mean, it was damp because, it's always raining there, but it looked like a desert. And then it was really still very dramatic because now they have a big wooden walkway, and you get there, you have tour buses, that's no problem. But you have the option of walking across it. And when you're up at the top and you look out over this whole dry bay and you see these little specks that look like ants, and you realize those are people walking there. And then you think about the origin of it, where these were pilgrims who were coming from afar and suffering and coming through. And then add to that, which I don't know if people know this, that bay is known for quicksand. And I was like, is this a Scooby-Doo cartoon? Like, what do you mean quicksand? But it's a real thing. And then even in the Bayou Tapestry, there's one of the panels that shows, this pilgrim getting caught in quicksand, trying to make his way. Yeah. So all of this incredible stuff. But the mountain itself, the island is absolutely, and I know I overuse the word magical, but it will give you the shivers because it looks like something a Disney animator would dream up. You've got the Abbey at the top, and then this whole little island and the village below. I do have to say, like, as with most places, unfortunately, it's so over touristed. You kind of have to just put in your earplugs and not pay attention to it, because unfortunately, the little village that that lines the walkway to get to the top, it's all tourist shops and restaurants and
Sure.
that kind of stuff. But that's everywhere. You should definitely still go. I don't want to tell people not to go. But it's just one of those amazing, you see why it has a UNESCO status. It's incredible.
So, Christine, here's a question for you. As a TV host and TV producer, how do you handle big crowds like that when you're actually going into film? Do you have to get special dispensation in order to go in there so that you can, because you have to get your shots, and you don't want every shot inside the church to be just a mass of people. Maybe some you want to show the crowds and whatnot, but how do you handle that logistically?
Well, 9 times out of 10, we are actually filming with the regular visitors and public and everybody doing their thing. Once in a while, like the Picasso Museum, which we're going to chat about in a minute, we get special permission to go in there and film before guests get there, which is my favorite thing because we're not bothering guests and they're not bothering us. And I should never say guests are bothering us, because it's, they've paid a ticket. They have every right to be there as well. It can be a challenge, I'm saying with air quotes so nobody can see the air quotes, when a place is that crowded, because, it's like I'm trying to show the history and to show how wonderful it is. And you've got people, shoving a burger in their face or telling their kid not to touch or whatever it is. But it is what it is. And we are, even though it's a travel show, it still skews more towards documentary news style. So we're showing what it is. I'll edit certain things out if it, like I said, if it's a tourist with a slogan on a t-shirt that shouldn't be seen. But that's just part of the challenge of what we do.
Before we go on to the Picasso Museum, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about that, I want to ask you about the food in Brittany, because Brittany is kind of an unusual place in that they're not really wine drinkers as much because they grow all these apples up there. And so they drink a lot of cider. Did you have any of the cider or their famous buckwheat crepes when you were in Brittany?
I did not have any of the cider, but I had the buckwheat crepes, which are called galettes, as you probably know.
Yes.
And I saw 2 different types there. So the fancier one we had in this wonderful restaurant just called Bretonne, as in Brittany. It was this rooftop restaurant, and I'm vegetarian, so the one I think it's called a complete, like complete. That's like a ham and cheese and sometimes egg. And so you may know, have you had the buckwheat crepes?
Yes, there's actually a place in Lisbon that serves them, because there's a family from Brittany here in Lisbon. So when we're up in the Grassa neighborhood, we go there and get our buckwheat crepes.
They're amazing.
They're so good.
They are so good. And I like simple things like that. And it was funny. So I had my first, like when we're in Poland, I try to have pierogies every day, and I like lose my mind over them. And I was like, this one's great, this one's great. My crew's just like, they're like, can we just have a burger? I'm like, no, we're having more pierogies. So I lost my mind over these galettes, and I thought they were the best thing I'd ever had in my whole life. I was being very dramatic about it. And I had one, and you tell me if you've had this combination. So the cheese always has to be mild, so it doesn't like compete with the flavor of the buckwheat. Mine had Gruyere, and it had the champignon mushrooms, and then I think butternut squash. Does that sound familiar? Or maybe that was just that restaurant.
Yeah, I've never had that, but that sounds like an amazing combination. So I love the Gruyere cheese on my buckwheat crepe on my galette.
It's so good.
So good. So good. Yeah, and you can get sweet ones too. You can get savory ones. You can get sweet ones. You see a lot of the ham and cheese, like you said, but you can get anything on them really now. They have ones with Nutella in them if that's your jam.
Oh, that would be good. There was one other type that I saw that Rennes, excuse me, pardonnez-moi, Rennes is known for their big farmers market, Saturday farmers market.
Oh,
and so all the kind of the workers, and it was almost like the construction worker guys who would normally be getting like an egg McMuffin on the way to work. They would stop at this one truck and they would get their galette, but wrapped around a sausage. So it was like a pig in a blanket, but which was weird. And it was just like, little street food, hand food. They'd grab that and went on their way. And I was like, no, I'll have the kind where I get to sit down and use a knife and fork because they're amazing.
Yeah.
But I love it.
And just sit here and enjoy it for as long as possible. And then maybe get a second one. I've been known,
maybe get a second one.
I've been known to do that. All right, let's move from France to their neighbor Spain. You were in southern Spain in Malaga, and boy, I gotta say, I have got to get to Malaga. I've spent a little bit of time since we moved to Portugal in Andalusia. And we've been to Cordoba, and we've been to Seville, and we've been to a lot of places down in Andalusia. Have not yet made it to Malaga. So, I mean, that's kind of a crime. But you guys went to Malaga. You did a great episode on it. And I love the tapas joint that you went to when you were in Malaga. Can you tell me about that a little bit, please, Christine?
I'd love to. So with Malaga, I was pleasantly surprised because the first funny thing we noticed is, because I think we flew into there directly, I think. And the first thing we noticed is it was full of all of those kind of package vacation things for a bunch of British tourists. Right. And I thought, oh gosh, and I can say this because I'm from Florida, it's all right to bash it. And I thought, oh no, have we booked a shoot in Daytona Beach? Where are we? What is happening? So we get there. There was so much history. It's an archaeological site, which I won't tell the long story of that because, we'll save that for the episode. There's so much to see there. It is incredible. So I'll jump right to the restaurant. So it's called Bodega El Pimpi. And we had the executive chef take us around there, and he was so delightful. This restaurant, even if you're not a foodie, even if you're not hungry, the restaurant itself is incredible. Because what they did is they took all of these 16th and 17th century old kind of houses and apartments and things and the alleyways between them, and they kind of connected everything. So you have one area that's a restaurant, and then you walk through this weird little pathway that's got these gorgeous flowers or posters and things up, and they've turned that into a different little space. And then you walk through something and it's a bar, and then you kind of go outside and the back inside. It's like this labyrinth of multiple restaurants all creating one restaurant. And we got to sit down and learn the history of tapas. I'm sure you know this. And so basically it's the legend says that a king of Spain didn't want the flies to get into his drink. So he took a piece of bread and stuck it on top. And then the idea became in bars mostly is if you're going in for a drink, they would give you something to cover the top of it. And then, hey, while we're at it, we're going to sell you some cheese or some fish and some meat, charcuterie or whatever. And then that's how tapas was born, these little small plates. The thing I learned, which I had not heard before, and I think most people maybe have not heard it unless they've been to Malaga. So the lovable nickname for a Malaga resident is a Bonquerone or Bonquerones, plural. And a Bonquerones, you know what that means is...
Sardines and vinegar. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why is so there's this long history because Malaga is a coastal city. It was first settled by the Phoenicians, and they first started making their money by salting fish, like a lot of ancient civilizations did. And anchovies was the thing that they did. They sort of pickled them in vinegar or whatever. And I mentioned the archaeology. There's actually these areas where they know that's where they call it a fish factory. That's where they were preserving the anchovies. So the history of being a Bonquerones in Malaga goes all the way back to ancient times. So we got all that all done at that one restaurant. It was really cool.
You mentioned earlier that you're vegetarian. Did you find it difficult eating in Spain as a vegetarian? Because a lot of the cuisine is very ham and fish centric.
Nope, I'm an expert at that. I do think it's funny though, and I want to send this out into the world. I don't know what is so hard about having lentils or some tofu on the menu. I'm like, even if you serve it to me plain, just put the same sauce on it that you do all the meat and the other stuff. But no, I never have a problem doing that. But it is funny though, and I shouldn't say this to a foodie and your foodie audience. They really do pride themselves on their ham. And as a vegetarian they have this one area where it's like, you can still tell it's the leg of an animal and they've got it on, and I'm just going, oh God, get me out of here.
Yeah, I know. And they're hanging from the ceiling, and there's dozens of them. And it's, even if you are a carnivore, it can be a little bit upsetting and shocking to see that when you walk into one of these tapas bars. But
yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, exactly. I think most people don't want to know how the sausage is made, literally.
Yes.
So let's keep that back in the kitchen.
Right. Well, that's, that's part of the thing. It's you go into the supermarket, everything is packaged in a way that it's completely removed from what it actually is, the animal or whatever. There's lots more food and travel at destinationeatdrink.com, where it's all about Venice this month. I just posted a story about how to save $100 on your gondola ride. It might not be for everyone, but check it out and decide for yourself at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. There's plenty of pictures there. I also just published a brand new food and travel guide to Venice at buymeacoffee.com. There's the Venetian answer to tapas, many different spritzes, and how to get into St. Mark's Basilica for free. Download your copy at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. I also posted a brand new video. It's about my favorite cicchetti spots in Venice. When you go to Venice, you gotta eat cicchetti. And I've got some of my favorites. You can watch the video by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or by going to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. Let's talk about Picasso, because I'm a big fan of Picasso's work, and I always get so much great, fascinating information when I watch your show, Curious Traveler. And we just actually visited the Picasso Museum in Antibes, but I never knew until I watched your show how traditional African masks inspired Picasso. Can you talk about that a little bit and about the Malaga Picasso Museum?
Yes, I'm happy to. I'm so glad you picked up on that. I actually learned that little fun fact back when we filmed in Paris for season 2, which would be probably about 10 years ago. So most people are familiar with, I like to call it the wonky faces of Picasso. I did not know that all of that was inspired. So he was living in Paris in Montmartre along with the rest of the legends, and they were all dirt poor. And at a flea market or wherever it was, he came across these beautiful wooden African masks. And the masks are very angular. So instead of like the bridge for your nose being smooth and cylindrical, it was a sharp point. And same with the eyelids, and then the cheekbones and the chin. Everything is sharp and comes to a point. For whatever reason, this really inspired him. And so he started painting these faces like that, and also doing the thing he's famous for, which is instead of the singular perspective, he's doing a side of a face along with the front of the face, all as one face. Then I go into all the different theories where it's like, are these two sides of our same psyche? Is it a man and a woman? Is it two people merging? What is it? But it all started from these masks. And at this particular museum, there's many Picasso museums around the world. This particular one, they have one of the masks, and it was so cool how they laid the museum out. They did it chronologically. So you start with the mask and you kind of walk through. And what I love, no matter where you see his work, just in case there's anybody out there who say, oh, he looks like a kindergartner doing that, I could do that.
Yeah.
They included many of his pieces where he is painting in a more realism style. And you're like, oh, yeah, of course he can do that. He chose to do it this way instead. And the other thing about this museum, it's there because he was born there. His father was an artist too, and actually taught at the art school. And the collection they have there, apparently, I don't know if it's all of it or a good chunk of it, is exclusively from his extended family. Like pieces maybe he sort of did and like, oh, you can have this, you can have that. And I think that they're sort of protected, and it's not like these are going to be touring around anywhere. So you have to go to Malaga to see those specific pieces.
It's so interesting that you say that, Christine, because years ago we went to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona.
The big one.
And when folks say what you said, which is, people will say, oh, that looks so juvenile, I could do that. I say, go to the Barcelona Picasso Museum because they have his early sketches and paintings and drawings when, like you said, he was doing realistic type stuff. And I always say, he could have been one of these masters. He was like Michelangelo in that he could depict details in the human figure that are just enlightening and spectacular. But he chose to do something that was completely radical and different. So when you look at it in that context, you realize what a genius this guy truly was.
Absolutely. And the fact that we're still talking about him now and, trying to analyze it like, from a psychological perspective, it's fantastic. I never get tired of it.
Let's go to the other side of the world and Antarctica. My cousin went there a couple years ago, and she still raves about it. She loved going to Antarctica. And other than penguin documentaries, I can't think of any travel show that's gone to Antarctica. Tell me about your experience.
It was absolutely incredible. And I will just say this, it's if anybody listening ever gets the chance to go. And I'll say this as an aside, it is incredibly expensive because it's so remote. But there are, and you have to go with the cruise ship. I don't know how many people think you can just sort of, like, there's no airport there. I don't know if people still think that, and you can't just wander around. It's a very protected area. So you have to go under supervision. I'll just say it like that. We got very, very, very lucky. The weather was spectacular. There's a famous thing called the Drake Passage. So if you're going, most Westerners or most people from the United States would go all the way. It's to the tip of South America, and then you cross the Drake Passage. Long story short, it's known as the Drake Shake because it's so stormy and tumultuous and scary. For us, it was the Drake Lake. And it was smooth sailing. We got there. It was sunny. We were like taking our coats off. We were warm. And I'm going, I don't know what we've done. I'm going to pinch myself. Anyway, so you get to see penguins. You get to be so close to seals. And we had a whale come right by our ship, not in a dangerous way, or in our little boat. But honestly, and this sounds silly, in addition to that, I was equally taken with just the shapes that the ice that naturally occur in the ice. That makes you feel like you're on a different planet. And I'm not exaggerating. And we got to go kayaking around this island. And when I say island, it's this giant block of ice, and you're going around it, and you have little penguins. Penguins do this way of swimming called porpoising, where they kind of pop out of the water and go back in. They're going alongside us in the kayak, and I'm like, am I in a Disney movie? What's happening here?
That is so awesome.
It's amazing.
I'm kind of obsessed with penguins, and I've heard people say that when you get out into Antarctica and you're amongst the penguin colony, it is so loud. Did you find that as well?
It was loud, but in a wonderful way, because you see so many of them. We were on these certain islands, which are known as like, oh, there's 6,000 penguins on this island. It's the most of this type of penguin in all of Antarctica. And they're just living in nature the way they're supposed to. And there's no danger of some skyscraper being built on their land. And they have all these wonderful all these wonderful little behaviors that they have. I don't know if you saw this part of the episode. They create these things called penguin highways. Had you heard of this before?
No, I'd never heard of it till I saw your show.
It was incredible. So up the side of a mountain, and I did it as a joke. I was like, so they're in these penguin colonies. There's 6,000 of them. They make a lot of noise. There's a lot of poop going on. That's not a bad word, but there is. And so they clean themselves in the water the same way cats like to be clean. And then I said as a joke, if you want to get some quiet time, they climb to the top of the mountain. So when they climb with their little bellies and their little waddles, they create these lines that look like a ski line, going down a mountain.
Yes.
What's that called? I don't ski. What's that called? There's a name for it.
I don't know. I'm not a skier either.
I'll say, okay, good. Okay, between the two of us, okay, I don't feel bad.
Neither of us
Somebody
know.
Listening. It's called something. Anyway, so they create these lines going up the mountain, and so then the rest of the penguins will start to follow. It's like they're kind of melting away little paths in the snow. But then they'll have other penguins who go across, horizontally. So then there's intersections, and it's the funniest thing. And the scientists I interviewed who would study their behavior for 6 months on this remote island, the scientists have started calling it a penguin highway. And the penguins, because they're just polite creatures by nature, they will pause and wait at the intersection
Oh my God.
for another one to pass. It's hilarious. And if one of them needs a nap, they get off the side of the road. They just lay down so that the rest of the traffic can keep going. And we weren't there long enough because you're not allowed to stay too long. But I was like, I just want to sit here for 3 days and watch the penguin highway.
God, yeah. Yield, Oscar,
Yeah, correct. It was amazing.
So how was the food in Antarctica? Do they have a Pizza Hut down there?
Well, here's what's funny is there's no restaurants in Antarctica, and nobody did any fishing because you're not allowed to do that. So we ate what was on the ship, and this is going to sound so silly, but I've told everybody this. So we were there with our film crew, and there were a few other journalists, but for whatever reason on this particular cruise line, there was a huge group of tourists from China. So the chef had prepared a lot of Chinese dishes. So we ate really good Chinese food in
Awesome.
Antarctica. So
Who'd have thought,
Isn't that
right?
great?
Yeah, that's
it was
awesome.
great. I was like, gotta go to Antarctica. It was really good though. It was really good.
Gotta go to Antarctica to get good Chinese.
Correct.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, someday I'm going to do the Antarctica. Me and Karen will do the Antarctica trip. But boy, living vicariously through you on the Curious Traveler show was enough for now.
Yeah, well, we were just happy that we were able to bring viewers such beautiful shots with the sun that we had, because normally it's very cloudy and a mess, and you can't get on the little zodiacs every day. So we were very thankful for that, to be able to share it.
You just put out season 8 of Curious Traveler, but I know you're always planning ahead, Christine. What do you got next on the horizon? Do we have another season coming down the road? Have you started thinking about it, filming it? What's going on?
I've started to think about it. I have not booked anything yet. I think for this season I really loved because there was a lot of variety in it. Sure. I think in the next season I might do a theme of some sort. And don't hold me to it, but probably much like yourself, someone who loves travel, my dream has always been to do a season of just castles. And so it'll be a full episode of just one castle, because the crime of all this is when I go to edit it, I have to leave so much out, if I'm trying to get a whole city into 26 minutes. So I think for next season, I'm going to try to do something where it's maybe, 10 different castles, and each episode is just the one castle, which I hope people will like. And if they don't like it, that's okay, because I'll like it.
That's right. Do it for yourself. That's why I do this podcast, to keep myself entertained.
Correct.
Christine, it's been great catching up with you. Congratulations on the new season of Curious Traveler. It's out on PBS right now, and you can also stream it on PBS Passport. Thanks for being on Destination Eat Drink. I'm always so happy when a new season comes out, and I'm always so happy to get to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It is always a pleasure chatting with you. You're a fellow travel lover, and I'm always happy to be a part of your show.
Okay, there you go. Penguins in Antarctica. How great would that be? A trip of a lifetime, to be sure. You can find out more about Christine and her adventures at CuriousTravelerTV.com. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, we're in Hoi An for the yin and yang energy of food in Vietnam. secret recipes, and getting up to make the noodles at 1 a.m. Make sure you subscribe to Destination Eat Drink so you don't miss that. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.